4,000 years ago, before there were hospitals, before there were antibiotics, before there was even a word for medicine, a single plant was already healing the wounds of humankind. Vikings carried its leaves into battle. Persian physicians wrote its name in golden ink. Greek doctors prescribed it for cuts the body could not close on its own. Native Americans called it white man's footprint, because wherever the boots of strangers pressed the earth, this plant rose behind them, quiet, patient, ready to heal. Its name is Plantago major. The world now calls it a weed. And in the early 2000s, one of the largest agricultural corporations on the planet quietly began wrapping its medicinal genetics inside corporate patents. Before this vault closes, you will understand why that single word, weed, may be the most expensive lie ever sold to your family. Before we open this vault, if these stories matter to you, the best way to preserve this wisdom is simple. Subscribe, hit the bell, and share these vaults with those who need to remember what we forgot. Stay with me, because in just a few minutes, I will show you the 3 forgotten compounds inside this leaf that explain why grandmothers in 12 different countries still keep its oil in their kitchens. The complete reference guide for everything we will uncover today is already waiting for you in the link in the description below. It is the same document I built while researching this video, and I left it open so you can read everything I could not fit on the screen tonight. Pollen records preserved in ancient northern peat show that this plant arrived in the fields of Nordic Europe almost exactly 4,000 years ago, moving with the very first farmers as if it had been waiting for them. The Anglo Saxons placed it among their 9 sacred herbs. They called it way bread, the bread of the path. They sang to it before battle. Dioscorides, the Greek physician of the 1st century, recorded its use for ulcers, snake bites, burns, and wounds that refused to close. Before we continue, tell me in the comments what country you're watching from. I'm genuinely curious how many of you, scattered across the world, are discovering this forgotten plant at the very same moment. And if you're not subscribed yet, now is the moment, because what I am about to show you will change the way you look at every patch of so-called weeds near your home. In traditional Persian medicine, the roasted seeds were prescribed for internal bleeding and inflammation of the gut, while the crushed leaves became poultices for skin infection. The Navajo Nation calls it simply life medicine, a panacea, a plant for everything. And yet, in the country where you are watching this video right now, it grows in the cracks of your driveway, and most people walk past it as if it were nothing. Now, the part that the seed corporations have spent decades hoping no one would explain on a screen this large. In 2003, the highest court in Canada agreed to hear the famous case of Monsanto against a farmer named Percy Schmeiser, and the ruling that followed extended corporate patents to every single cell and every single gene inside a patented plant. That same window of years saw dozens of patents appear in offices across the United States, Europe, and Asia, claiming exclusive rights over extracts, compounds, and methods tied to common medicinal herbs. A plant that had healed humanity for 40 centuries was suddenly something that could be owned, sprayed, regulated, and sold back to you in a bottle with a brand name printed on the front. This is exactly why I built the complete guide that is now waiting for you in the link below this video. Inside, you will find the full identification photos for both main species, the traditional preparations used across 12 cultures, the modern studies cited line by line, and the safety notes for internal and external use. One single access. The complete vault on this plant, forever yours. Plantago major did not escape that wave of patents. Search the archives today and you will find filings on its extracts, on biocontrol fungi designed to wipe it from lawns, on industrial methods to isolate the very molecules our ancestors used for free. Once a healer becomes common, free, and effective, it becomes the most dangerous competitor a pharmaceutical product can ever face. And the simplest way to remove a competitor is not to ban it. It is to convince an entire civilization that it is just a weed. I know this is a lot of information to absorb in one video, which is exactly why the full document, with every single source I cited tonight, is waiting in the link below. It is the same archive I would have wanted to find when I first started researching this plant, and I left it organized so you can save it, print it, and pass it on to your own family. Now let's open the science, because this is where the story stops being folklore and starts being chemistry. Modern laboratories have isolated 3 compounds inside Plantago major that explain exactly what our ancestors observed with their own eyes for 40 centuries. The first is allantoin, the same molecule that pharmaceutical companies synthesize at great cost and sell inside expensive scar creams and high-end skin ointments. The leaf produces it for free. Allantoin accelerates the multiplication of new skin cells, speeds the closure of wounds, softens damaged tissue, and visibly reduces the appearance of scars. The second is aucubin, a natural antimicrobial that researchers have shown to be effective against several strains of bacteria that cause skin infection, including some that no longer respond well to common antibiotics. The third is mucilage, a soft polysaccharide gel that coats wounds, soothes inflamed tissue, and creates a biological barrier against contamination. Together, these three compounds do something that almost no synthetic ointment can match. They heal, they protect, and they regenerate, all at the same time from a single living leaf. A peer-reviewed study published in the Journal of Ethnopharmacology demonstrated that topical extract of plantain leaf increased collagen deposition and accelerated wound closure by up to 30% compared to untreated controls. A separate review confirmed that the polysaccharides in the leaf stimulate the local immune response at the exact site of an injury, and the aucumin inside the plant has been shown to inhibit the same inflammatory pathway that mild anti-inflammatory drugs target. This is not folklore anymore. This is peer-reviewed science, published in major journals, available to anyone who knows where to look. And yet, you will not find this plant on most pharmacy shelves. You will not see it in television commercials. You will not hear about it from most family doctors, because nobody can own it. And in an economy that runs on patents, that which cannot be owned is allowed to be forgotten. There are two main species you can find almost anywhere on the planet. Plantago major, the broadleaf plantain, with broad, rounded leaves and strong parallel veins you can trace with the tip of your finger. And Plantago lanceolata, the narrowleaf plantain, with slim, lance-shaped leaves and a tall flower spike. Both have nearly identical healing properties. Both grow in disturbed soil. Both are silently treated as enemies by lawn care companies and city contractors. In Eastern Europe, grandmothers still wash the leaves, crush them gently between their palms, and apply them directly on cuts, bee stings, and inflamed skin. They have done this for centuries, long before any of us were born. In the mountain villages of South America, the leaves are boiled into a tea for sore throats and chest inflammation. In India, the seeds of a closely related species, known as psyllium, support digestion in millions of households. In rural France, the leaves are still infused in olive oil to make a soothing balm for sunburn and minor abrasions. The leaf can be chewed into a fresh poultice, infused into oil for a balm, dried for a winter tea, or simply pressed against a small wound while you walk through a forest path. The most extraordinary part of all of this is that it requires no greenhouse, no genetic modification, no irrigation system, and no patent. It grows because the earth has been disturbed by us. It heals because life is generous when we are wise enough to notice it. There is one more layer to this story that almost no one has the courage to say out loud. The same plant that Greek physicians studied has now been confirmed by Norwegian, Iranian, Brazilian, and Indonesian researchers as a legitimate candidate for the development of natural antimicrobial treatments in the post-antibiotic era we are slowly entering. Antibiotic resistance is the slow medical emergency of our century. And one of the oldest, simplest, freest medicines in human history may carry part of the answer. But that answer cannot be patented. It grows in your sidewalk. And so the silence around it is not an accident. It is a business decision. A plant that was honored by Vikings, written about by Greek physicians, painted into manuscripts by medieval monks, and called life medicine by entire Native American nations, has been quietly buried under a single word in the modern corporate dictionary. That word is weed. And it was never an accident. The pharmaceutical economy of the 21st century cannot afford a plant that grows for free in every sidewalk and quietly heals what their products charge a fortune to imitate. So they did the only thing they could do. They convinced you to call it useless. They convinced your city to spray it. They convinced your neighbor to pull it out and throw it on the trash pile. And in doing that, they almost erased 4,000 years of human memory. Almost. Because some memories are stronger than the corporations that try to bury them. Right now, in this very moment, you are part of a small but rapidly growing number of people who are choosing to remember. Every time you recognize this plant in the wild, every time you teach a child its name, every time you choose to leave a patch of it growing in your own yard, you are doing something quietly revolutionary. You are removing one word, weed, and putting back the word it always deserved. Medicine, heritage, heirloom of humankind. Think of every family member who has ever struggled with a stubborn wound, a minor burn, a skin irritation that refused to close. Think of how much your household has paid for synthetic creams that contain the very same molecule the plant in your front yard produces, completely free every single morning for nothing. Think of the children of the next generation, who will inherit either a world that remembers or a world that has forgotten everything that mattered. The choice of which one we hand them begins with the choice we make in our own gardens, this week, tonight. Leave a single patch of plantain growing somewhere on your property. Show your children its leaves. Tell them what Dioscorides knew, what the Navajo knew, what your great-grandmother probably knew before the world taught her to forget. That is how a memory survives a corporation. Not through laws, not through protests. Through small acts of remembering, repeated quietly by people scattered across the world. Before we close this vault, remember that the complete guide, with the identification photos, the recipes from 12 countries, the safety notes, and every source I cited tonight, is waiting in the link in the description. One single access, The full knowledge, forever yours. If this story moved you, if it surprised you, if it made you look at the green patches outside your window differently, then take 1 minute to do 3 small things. Subscribe to this channel so the next vault reaches you when it opens. Activate the bell so the algorithm does not bury this knowledge again. And leave a like so that one more person, somewhere in the world, finds this story when they need it most. Share this video with one person you love. One person who has ever applied a synthetic cream to a wound, when the answer was growing under their kitchen window. The next vault we open together will be even older, even quieter, and even more buried than this one, because the truth about what our grandmothers knew is only just beginning to be remembered. See you in the next vault.